So October, you said?
What's that?
October?
What?
You said your big half century is in
No, it's in
October?
November.
Oh,
November.
November.
Yeah, yeah.
November.
Yeah,
What,
yeah,
November
yeah.
what now?
Huh?
November what now?
20.
Okay. Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
11/20.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You think the world can take another 50 years of me? So
Do you think the world can take another 50 years?
yeah, this is a good question. Good question. So I wanted to show you this video. I texted it to you the other day, along with a major fucking rant that I wasn't sure if I was going to have any friends in that group text anymore after that, but thankfully here we are. And this thing really got underneath my skin. It really did. So I know you're, because we've talked about this guy before, so I know you're aware of Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, you're telling me about him.
Yeah, he's running for president. And I tell you what, man, the guy talks a good talk. I don't necessarily know I'm going to vote for him. I think he falls short on a couple things. He gets a little wrong here and there, but for the most part, I haven't heard anybody sound better than him yet, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So I do.
You say this guy got like libertarian roots?
Yeah, according to him, when he was in college, he was one of these full-blown gung-ho libertarian, warriors. He did all the necessary required reading on, all the libertarian philosophy and all that. Yeah, but now he calls himself a conservative. So he calls himself a conservative with libertarian sentiment, I think he says, or something along those lines. Anyway, so I like a lot of what this guy has to say, but the video I'm about to show you is he went on the Breakfast Club. You know the Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's that hip hop talk show, hip hop oriented talk show. I think it's on Hot 97. Yeah, I think it's Hot 97. Yeah.
That was after 98.7 Kiss went out of favor. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like the whole, right? Yeah, brother. Yeah, of course, man.
98.7 Kiss with DJ. What was it? DJ Cool Red Alert or some shit like that. What was it?
There's a whole bunch of them, man. There was the Fox that rocks the box. What was her name? It was, man.
Yeah. And I don't know if the audience is aware of this or not, but I'm actually a fan of hip hop. It was basically you and an old friend of ours, a mutual friend, Mickey Hart. So he was on the show the last couple episodes, and I'd have to say it was actually him more than anybody that actually turned me on to hip hop. I think it was, I don't remember if it was Technotronic or if it was Public Enemy that I listened to first, but I've found them through Mickey around the same time because he used to play all that stuff, and I just fell in love with it, and that was my conversion to a hip hop fan. Before that, I was just classic rock and a little bit of metal.
And how you could connect like Technotronic and Public Enemy, that alone is just something.
They're very different artists, no doubt, but they still were sort of in the same realm for that time. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people would listen to both of those. No,
they'd be like, there was a big house movement thing.
Exactly.
Like a house movement. That was all over the place. Yeah, So there was a lot more melding of genres back then. Yeah.
And you helped me expand upon that through reggae.
Oh, hell yeah. Dancehall reggae. There was something special going on with dancehall reggae back in the
late I love dancehall reggae.
On like Liberty Avenue, Jamaica Avenue, and Queens.
Yeah.
Paradise, Tiny Whiny, those spots. Holy shit, man.
Cuddy Ranks, his song Living Condition is the actual theme song. That's what opens up and closes my podcast. If that tells you anything, you know what I mean? I just love that stuff. And you're the one that introduced me to it.
I remember I would take you to hardcore reggae club in Queens. And you just do your thing, man. I was like, there's John just doing his fucking thing, man. Yeah, you're always
that never ended. When I lived in Orlando, they had two really good reggae clubs. The best one was Bob Marley's. And it was a Bob Marley themed club. You know what I mean? It was outside of Universal Studios in an area called City Walk. Have you been there where they have all the clubs and bars and restaurants?
Okay. Pleasure Island and stuff.
Yeah. So have you been to Bob Marley's?
I don't think I have. I might have.
If you're ever down there again, you got to go on Saturday night specifically, because Saturday night they have an in-house band. I mean, I'm going way back, so it might not even be the same band anymore. But the band that used to play there every Saturday night, I swear to God, bro, I swear to God, it wasn't just music. It was a fucking religious experience. It was an out-of-body experience. It was amazing. And I was always the only white man in the middle of the dance floor, bumping and grinding and trying to get into something with somebody.
But that wouldn't be the first time. You know what I mean? You're always
no. Yeah, definitely not. I have a long history of that. But anyway, so this video, this presidential candidate, Vivek, goes on Breakfast Club. You can tell right away they're not a big fan of his. They're not exactly treating him with the respect you would think that they would treat any guest, you know. Now, I was wrong. Before we started recording, we were actually talking about the video a little bit, and I know you haven't seen it yet, but when I remembered this video, I only remembered the one part that really set me off and pissed me off. I didn't realize that there was like a good 10, 12 minutes that they actually did kind of talk to him and try to ask in their own dumb, low information, low IQ way. They did try to actually interview him. I forgot about that. All I remembered was the part that set me off. So I got the video set right now to the part that set me off. We don't have time to watch the whole video. I definitely recommend you go back and watch it, though, just to see how he was able to kind of maneuver through all this shit that they were throwing at him. So let me share the screen.
Now we have Bytezlyn Figaro. I'm sure Bytezlyn has some questions. Tez, you good?
Yes, I do. So I've heard a lot of, what you think and your vision, and I'm a very practical person, and I want to kind of, opposed to talking about your opponents, let's talk about you for a moment, and let's actually talk about your policy. Explain to me your position on this civic duty voting.
Sure. So my position is, I think that every kid who graduates from high school should know the minimums about the country that we require an immigrant to know about the country in order to become a citizen. So there's a test. My mom had to pass it. Every immigrant has to pass it to this country that asks you some basic questions. What are the three branches of government? What branch of government does the U.S. president lead? Some basic questions about what is the Bill of Rights. It's like a multiple choice exam, or some of them you write in. I think that if we're going to ask immigrants to pass that test, as we should, I think every 18-year-old who graduates from high school should have to pass that as well.
What do you think about that? Kind of on a side note, what he said there.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, like, to set some sort of bar, some sort of standard.
I know a lot of people would probably accuse him of, because I think there were, during the whole Jim Crow era, where they were basically trying to prevent black people from voting and all that.
Yeah.
I think there were certain, like, they tried to have a poll tax, and they tried to, I think they even tried to, I don't know what it was, if you couldn't read or whatever it was, you weren't allowed to vote. Something along those lines. I don't remember. So I can see people trying to accuse him of something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can see his point. If you're going to require people to know these few very, very, very basic things about this country in order to become a citizen, why would it be so wrong to expect voters to know that as well?
Yeah. Like, what about civics class? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember taking civics in high school. I think I did something like along those lines in grammar school. I think they tried to teach us, but I think that's wrong because in grammar school, do you really give a shit? And are you going to actually remember that stuff?
I really think it should be something in high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. In grammar school, they should just be teaching you the basic arithmetic and maybe the bigger ideas of the country. You know what I mean? A little bit of the history, but not so much with an emphasis on names and dates and stuff like that. Just more the idea of some of the things that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it goes back to that issue.
That's why I never went to fucking grammar school. I wasn't there half the time because it sucked.
Pride.
Yeah.
You don't value a country that you don't know something about. You don't value something you inherit. You value something you have a stake in creating, in building, or knowing something about. So how do we think big about this? Well, young people, as I told you, most of them, very few of them vote as it stands today. Super small numbers. And apparently 60% of them say they would rather give up their right to vote than give up TikTok. Well, I say, all right, let's take that to the next level. How about we do something that raises the voting age from 18 to 25, but you still get to vote at 18 if you just pass that same civics test that an immigrant has to pass in order to vote. And tests aren't for everybody, so be it. Then you at least serve in the military or a first responder role for 6 months.
Another side note, I just remembered years ago when I first started the podcast, I actually had Mickey Hart on the show. And I gave him that test, and he fucking failed miserably.
That's my civic.
So I think really we should deport him at this point.
Duty voting. And the reason is, I'll actually make a prediction. I think youth voting in this country will skyrocket. After from a very low level right now, it will skyrocket because you value something you actually have to earn. And I think that this is not a left-wing or right-wing point. We all have duties as citizens, right? You know, we aspire to free market capitalism, right? Materialist advance. And that's the life I've lived as well, by the way. My parents came to this country with not a lot of money. I've lived the American dream. I've made a lot of money by building businesses. That's one side of what it means to be an American. But part of it is we also have duties to this country. And I think the more we wake that up, actually, the voting age only became 18 in 1971 in the context of the Vietnam draft. So I just think reviving those ideas is going to be good for us.
A lot. So let's prove your point. Nick, our camera guy, do you know the 3 branches of the federal government?
Over 24, so it don't matter.
But I'm just saying, but nobody knows there are 24. Red, do you know the 3 branches?
Executive.
Well, I got a test. I would like to see if you're willing to pass, because I believe in, just as you believe in civic engagement, I believe in changing the ideas of what political opponents look like, what they should look like, or political candidates. Are you willing to take a test with me quickly? Because I just have a couple of questions for you.
I will, absolutely. And the way this is opening up, I have a feeling I'm about to fail it, but that's good. Let's do it.
That's right, yeah. Just for clarity, I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. Cool. I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. I also want to make it clear that these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just to kind of set the foundation.
I'm open to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way, for the United States Air Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding? A
long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around for, and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
and you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. One, not voting, and two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything, or just...
Can I just...
Class president. She wants to know if he was a class president.
Okay, there was that, and hold on. So, are they behind Chris Christie?
No.
If Christie runs? Okay.
No, absolutely not.
I was just wondering because but yeah, no, I see. But yeah, class president. That was kind of funny. Yeah, that was
yeah. So.
Even when he was talking, I think, he was focusing, when she was talking on civic duty and stuff like that. He'd be like, yeah, no, I didn't, I wasn't, but I was in the private sector. I think you could unapologetically say I was working in the private sector, and so what?
And
making my millions.
There's millions of people who don't vote. Millions. Okay. Yeah. It's a common thing amongst Americans. They just don't use the right to vote. I'm not saying it's a good thing or bad thing, but it's very common. So he didn't commit some kind of a crime or something, and what does that have to fucking do with anything? Maybe he didn't vote because there were no good choices, and he didn't want to show support for, asshole A or asshole B that he believes are not good candidates, are probably corrupt, are people who are probably going to destroy this country more than help this country. So why would that be a reason that they would hold it against him and try to use it as a reason to delegitimize him as a candidate? I don't get that.
Last election, I wrote in Wesley Clark. Because what? What? Fine.
I know tons of people who write in Ron Paul every single year. So, I mean, it just seems like such class president. She's worried if he was class president.
I'm just wondering.
Amazing.
Is she just trying to say, like, whatchamacallit, have you ever, it's like she's trying to take it back. She's like, okay, like, what leadership roles have you been in? And I guess she's done her research and she believes he hasn't been in any leadership roles. Yeah. But then the whole thing is, I would harp on the private sector thing. How could anyone argue, hey, look, I was just doing some stuff in the private sector for a while?
Yeah. The guy has led more than one multi-billion-dollar company, so he's a Harvard graduate, and he goes on to describe some of the stuff that he has done, in different leadership roles or whatnot. But it just boggles my mind that you get this candidate who also isn't your typical candidate. Yeah. And he's saying a lot of different things than people on both sides of the aisle. Why attack him because he wasn't a fucking class president? What does that even mean?
Just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important. My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my parents.
I'm saying your parents were immigrants. My apologies.
That's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I
thought
I would set that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's not go down the water hole.
No, we're not going to water hole. I just want to correct a couple facts, and then the other thing is
you were born here in Ohio.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So you've been here your entire life. So the question is. Did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But, I think that this is yes, I have held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it kind of does. Okay, well, it kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test administrator.
All right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
and I'll tell you, I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
the main leadership role I've played is, and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say, bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. You know, I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions. But
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that
no worries.
Because that's not the question that I asked. And I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit. I'm not talking about what.
Filibuster. He's answering her question.
Yeah,
but because
exactly.
she doesn't like his answer, he's filibustering. And here's another part that I don't like. And I know that you are an Air Force vet.
Yes, yes.
And on some level, I don't think there's anything wrong with being appreciative of people who do put themselves on the line for the country and all that. I think that's honorable. Now, we can get into an entire other conversation about our fucking military industrial complex and about the things that the military does that I don't agree with.
Yeah, what it's done into the 90s. You know, I was involved like in the early 90s.
Yeah, but this woman, what she goes on to do is something I fucking hate when I see this done by veterans. And I'm sorry, I don't give a shit. I'm entitled to. I know I never served, but I'm entitled to my opinion because you know. And she uses it as a way to shut down conversation and make her look like she has a higher moral authority or something, or she deserves more respect than the average person because I served. And she puts herself on this pedestal that I've seen a lot of military people do.
Yeah.
In fact, I was in a relationship with somebody who has a tendency to do that, and I never enjoyed it. So, but we won't go there. But this drives me fucking nuts when veterans consider themselves as some kind of elite class of people because they serve. And she's trying to act like veterans never serve to actually get benefits for themselves. Are you kidding me? That's 80% of the fucking people who go.
Oh, so like when she rants about it, and we'll get to it. I'm sure he was like, "You apply for the GI Bill? I hear that's voluntary." You know what I mean? But that's.
I wish you would have asked you these questions because you sound like you had a better response. But exactly.
No, but one quick thing: most veterans, like me, you know, when you go to the hardware store and they have veteran parking and stuff, especially if you got 2 arms and 2 legs, like I never park in the veteran parking because I'm like, I came back with all my limbs, you know, I'd really like that somebody who didn't would get that spot, you know what I mean? So, I was is that way, but I know the assholes you're talking about, and every population
you've met them.
Assholes, you know,
What you paid people to do with your company.
So I'm not talking about I've not served the country
because that means nothing to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she
what I
hasn't
am
been able to ask a question. She's been trying to ask a question, and you've been talking over her.
I'm all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say.
I'm all defensive.
I'm all ears. No, I was just correcting a couple facts.
She hasn't had a chance to
that's
ask
all.
a question yet. Every time she tries to ask a question, you've been cutting her off. Good.
I'm all ears.
Right. So your question. So my question again is: you're trying to your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country, and you want people to have civic engagement. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all, and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service, because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership role, it's not good enough to just be on city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio, Republican leadership there to now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is: this a PR? Is this?
She's got some weird graphics going on in her screen because her shoulder keeps disappearing. Have you noticed that?
From the PR, the perception of reality, or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself. Why does all of
this shit fucking matter?
How to kill all mosquitoes in the area in 90 seconds. This simple but
motherfucker
to eliminate all mosquitoes.
Fucking piece of shit.
If you're only going to count government service, you're absolutely
no, not government
right.
Service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did.
Let me ask you another question too. Republicans always get accused of, and I've kind of beat them up over it as well at times, that they never reach out to urban communities. Okay, that they don't, like 80 some odd percent, maybe 90%, I don't know exact number, but incredibly high number of inner city Black people vote Democrat. Okay, almost none of them vote Republican, even though that's been changing. And believe it or not, as crazy as it might be, Trump actually got more of the Black and Latino vote than any Republican in many, many years. Believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I completely believe it.
Yeah, but if that's a common complaint, that Republicans don't try to reach out to inner city, urban, Black, whatever, do you think that this type of interview is going to encourage them to do more of it? Why would they waste their fucking time? They're not going to get your vote for the most part anyway. I mean, am I wrong? Am I overthinking this? I mean, I'm appalled by this interview.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, like I said, this is like, I'm sure Clear Channel probably gave him some marching orders, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, go, make sure this is a hit piece. It's like,
maybe because he's gaining so much traction, and the system, so to speak, politics, media, big corp and all that, they don't like outsiders. They'd rather it be either Mitt Romney or Joe Biden, two people that they know they can control.
Yeah.
In the 6th grade with Miss Harris. I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every year, sir, because people who are in service to this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused. I'm saying, have you did anything of service that we can point to say he is a good leader, like Chris? And I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So the acts of service that I have performed are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always been interested in healthcare.
It's okay to talk about the small things.
I mean, these are small things, right? But thank you.
Let's just mention
Bethesda North Hospital.
So it's really a no?
No, it's not a no. It's just something I don't like boasting about. I
Well,
volunteered.
we're not boasting. It's an interview. You're boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you boasted on the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So in 6th grade, I'll give you an example. I'll help you out. In 6th grade, Miss Harris.
Why is she so angry?
You can ask her if ever you meet her. Just
she reminds me of several of my ex-girlfriends. I swear to God, man.
Have you ever? Are you like what? Why are you so angry?
That's what he should have said. Why are you so angry? Wow. All right, I'm not going to play too much more.
Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused.
This is
in
what
the
I
6th
want.
grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom. So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers. And I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around?
She complained about her 5th grade teacher.
Yeah.
She using that as an example of leadership to a guy who's built multi-billion-dollar biotech companies.
Yeah, when I was 10 years old. Yeah, it is. It's like I'm listening to it, and it was like if Donald Goines wrote Kafka. You know what I mean? It's like it's yeah.
You know what? I think I've seen enough of this video. I'm gonna stop sharing. But it just amazes me that this is the level of political discourse. You know, I mean, we already know that this country just spends way too much time focusing on the culture war and all that, and I'm more guilty of that than any fucking body. So I'm not pointing fingers at no one, but it really is a time and energy suck, and the really, really, really crucial stuff never gets attended to because we're stuck in the mud and all this culture war bullshit. But she wasn't now before she got on at the beginning of the video, they were kind of dabbling a little bit in the whole white supremacy thing and all that. So they did at the beginning of this interview kind of get into all that. She wasn't doing that. Thankfully, we could be thankful that she wasn't.
To Ramaswamy.
Yeah. Well, they weren't accusing him of it, but they were saying that basically everything that's wrong with the country is racism, and they were also saying that something along the lines where, how do you think you would ever actually be nominated because white people would never nominate you? Which, hey, you know, I mean, there may be a little bit of truth there. Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's truth.
You know, I mean,
like I said, man, the first time I heard Barack Hussein Obama, I thought, you guys, that's a mean joke, right?
Yeah,
but what the fuck do I know, man?
Yeah. But you know what, man? I would still argue that it's not completely false that would prevent some people from voting for him. I'm not one of these right wingers that wants to make believe that racism doesn't exist, because that's a fucking lie. Okay.
Yeah.
But my issue with all that is that the people on the left make it to be a much bigger obstacle than it really is. They exaggerate the fucking hell out of it.
Well, it's like it's in a human arena, it's treated different than a political arena. Because when you're talking about political arena, you're talking about leveraging power and stuff. And yeah, it gets to ridiculous lengths, leveraging power. It's like,
well, I mean, it's used on both sides, though, because think about it. What's so different about everybody going off the deep end with all the Black Lives Matter stuff on the left? What's so different from that, from all of the absolute insanity about the border and all that on the right? There's similar elements to both sides.
Of course.
And the politicians use that to their advantage.
Yes, yeah. It's like, the sides don't really matter. You know what I mean? It's like, as far as, like you're talking about the field there, the tactics of the field and everything. It's like specific allocations, regardless if it's like blue or red, it's like defense always gets their cut. They get the lion's share first and foremost. Everybody knows that, regardless of your party. You know what I mean? Stuff. So it's like, So, I mean, the arbitrary setup or color coding is just the bread and circuses. You know what I mean? It's like that other shit.
To get the people out to vote for either red or blue.
Yeah.
One thing I like about this guy, this is kind of off the point, but one thing I like about this guy, and I don't know how you'll feel about this, because I know me and you, we share we overlap on some things and other things we don't. But what I love about him is he wants to basically dismantle all of the three-letter organizations, the FBI, the IRS, the FDA, all of the bureaucracy, what he calls the managerial state, which he says actually runs Washington.
Okay.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. Okay. So like, what would it be like? Would those be private contracts then?
No, he wants to dismantle the entire organizations. Like no more FBI. No more.
Yeah.
So are you saying who would actually do the work if they weren't there?
There's like certain administrative hole that has to be filled. Okay, even like, you know.
Well, I think his argument is that it doesn't have to be filled. Like a lot of those jobs actually don't need to exist.
Okay, all right. Well, the whole thing is there has to be some sort of ramp down, even if he got reelected, you know, an 8-year ramp down. That's what it would take. It would take him to say, okay, I've got a 4-year plan to get him to this far. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's gotten into that kind of detail yet. So I don't know. That's a good question.
That's what it was. It would actually take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to be kicking down doors and shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how it would work, but I at least like the sentiment. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get that.
Especially the FBI. I don't know how closely you follow any of this stuff, but in my opinion, they've been involved in some really, really shitty ordeals in the past 8 years or so, 10 years or so.
Oh, yeah, no. How about Ruby
Well,
Ridge?
much longer than that. Yeah. But I'm talking about more specific incidents that happened recently. And he actually mentioned that in the show when they asked him, well, you know, I don't remember what the question was, but he went on to say, I'm going to dismantle all of these bureaucracies, including the FBI. And he said, you know, the FBI is the same organization that tried to suicide Martin Luther King or something like that. I guess they tried to convince him to kill himself because they held information about him that he wouldn't want to get out. They basically tried to blackmail him to death.
Yeah, some side optics.
Yeah. And he said that's the same organization that are doing things today that they shouldn't be doing. So, you know, let's get rid of them. So I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so that was the video. Any final thoughts on that video or the whole fucking scenario?
Well, all right. So yeah, like, you know, earlier I was saying, Clear Channel, whatever and stuff. But okay, I was thinking maybe she's mad. Maybe she saw that old clip, man. I'm telling you, the clip it's a Donahue clip. Okay, and it's and they got Mr. Farrakhan on there, and then there's this Indian lady in her sari wagging her finger, saying, "You'll be black, blue, purple. It don't matter. You know, you have great opportunity in this country." And Farrakhan is just like smiling at her, and I'm like, "What?" You know,
she shut Farrakhan up. Holy shit!
No. He responded like, you know, it was just like, it was like they started playing like low music. It was crazy.
Yeah. You know, I watched
the lights dimmed.
I watched a clip of Farrakhan on Donahue. I don't know if it's the same episode because I didn't see this Indian lady you're talking about.
Oh my goodness!
But I was shocked. He's a well-spoken dude, man. He said a lot of fucking things that I couldn't disagree with.
Do you know any of these, like these 5%ers or there's 3% or whatever?
Not personally.
No, okay. The like semantic geniuses, like most. It's like being in chess club.
Really?
I mean, yeah, really. So no, it's like no, and he's like friggin' Farrakhan. He's like you know, one of the lead. He's like big boss guy.
Yeah.
So he is. Yeah, he has flow in the way he talks. You know what I mean?
Is a badass in his own way, man. If he wasn't the leader of the Black Muslims, he would have been a serious pimp. You know what I mean? Because he's just got that fucking way of talking, man.